night, when my eyes beheld an eerie sight, for my monster from his slab began to rise, and suddenly, to my surprise...
Hi guys, this is Star Martinez. Today I'm going to be doing a presentation called Management Monster Mash. This past semester I took a course at Ottawa, Management of Healthcare Organizations, and from that time I've learned a couple of different key points that I would like to go over on a presentation of different things that you might use when you become a manager in your profession. So I'm going to break it up into a couple of different scenarios and then break it down to different things I learned throughout that course that you can use to solve those problems within the scenarios. So the first scenario and our first guest is going to be, imagine you are a manager over your current work department and you have staff who, when addressed with change, is much like our first guest, Frankenstein, rigid and unwilling to adjust. What are some things you as a manager should keep in mind and utilize? So rigid changes and changes in healthcare is inevitability. These are 4 key points to always keep in mind as a manager. First off, monster's nature or human's nature. Us as humans are going to be very resistant to change. It is a natural order of things. We are but creatures of habit. Always keep in mind that you're going to have some kind of resistance as a manager when you roll out that change. Now, something that you can do though is set the tone for your department. Make sure that your employees understand that in healthcare, change is inevitability, and being adaptable to that change is going to be what keeps them a valuable asset to the organization. Also, know your place as a manager. Understand that you yourself are a monster of nature or human, and you are also from time to time going to be resistant to some kind of change. But knowing your place in the organization as a constant change agent is going to be a key point to being successful as a manager. So the next scenario is you have an employee who is often 2 people in one. In other words, they are finicky with their work, behaviors, and or peers, much like our second guest, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So what are some things you as a manager should keep in mind and utilize in this scenario? Well, managing conflict is going to be the main thing that we're going to use in that scenario. And there's 4 key points when you're managing conflict with somebody like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So a reality check is going to be crucial for any manager. What this basically means is make sure you're always working in reality, not assumptions. When someone comes to you with an issue, make sure you are setting your sights on the facts, not opinions. You also want to make sure you have a high emotional intelligence, not just your own emotional intelligence and dealing with yourself, but also understand where other people are coming from with their emotional intelligence. This kind of goes back to the whole setting the tone. If you as a manager feel very high strung, then ultimately your employees are going to feel that same way. So always having your own emotions in check will ultimately rub off on your employees as well. And of course, start with I when you're addressing an employee with a conflict. For instance, I felt that you were undermining me in the meeting because you kept talking over me. When you start that with an I, you're not accusing them of undermining you. You're saying this is how you felt about it, giving them the ability to kind of defend themselves and open up that communication. And lastly, we-fi. What's in it for me? Not necessarily you as a manager, but what's in it for your employee to do what you are asking them? If you're asking them to correct their behavior, well, what's in it for them to correct their behavior? Make sure you're always approaching conflicts with that idea. What's in it for my employee if they follow what I'm asking them to do? So this scenario is congratulations, you have been promoted to a supervisor within your current department. Now, not only are you a specialist of your department, but also a manager. So how will you manage being 2 things to your department without ghosting on your managerial duties? So time management is really key when you're a new manager to a working department you've already been in. These 3 points are going to help you with that time management. So always remember you are wearing two hats. So you are that specialist of your department. It's great that you have so much knowledge coming from that department, which is probably why you became a manager. But remember that you have new duties that are managerial that you cannot forget about. Proper delegation is going to help you in that case. So as a new manager, you are going to be expected to pick up, like I said, those additional duties, which means you're going to have to delegate down some of your other work to your employees now. When it comes to delegation, you want to make sure that you know who you're delegating your work to. You know your employees, you know what their caseload is, you know what their work capacity and ethics are about work. When you're delegating your work down to your employees, make sure that you understand that that delegation of work is still your responsibility. So if you're delegating your work down to someone that ultimately cannot deliver, that is still going to be on you why it's not being delivered. Also, utilizing your time properly. Like I said, you're a manager now of a working department, so every second of the day is going to be time well spent, and you want to make sure that you're spending it properly. You don't want to be a worker manager who's only working. You want to make sure that you're at least doing half and half time. So our last scenario, imagine you are a last guest of the Manager Monster Mash, the leader, Count Dracula. Now that you're a manager of many tasks, one of many tasks you will have to manage is meetings and materials needed to execute a successful meeting or mash off. What are some things you as a manager should keep in mind and utilize? So key meeting takeaways. So first off, when it comes to meetings, especially as a manager, you're going to have a lot of meetings that you yourself are going to have to manage. Those meetings can be anywhere from one-on-ones to quarterly meetings, and also staff meetings just in general, emergency staff meetings, special project meetings. So first off, it's going to be time frame and frequency. So how long is the meeting appropriately, and the frequency of a meeting? If you have 10 employees and you have to have a one-on-one on them every month, that is going to be maybe 15 to 20 minutes per employee. Is that feasible? Also, attendance. Who is going to be at the meeting? If it's just a one-on-one, then obviously you're just going to have yourself and that one employee. If it's a departmental meeting, how big of the department are you going to invite to this meeting? Or if you're rolling out a new special project, who has to be there in that meeting for the first round? Location is a really big deal as well, especially nowadays with so many people who work at home or work in different clinics. Where is this meeting going to take place? Is it going to have to be an in-person meeting? Could it be something that's done through WebEx, through the internet, through a call-in portal? And lastly, the agenda, which ties in everything: the time frame, the frequency, the attendance, and the location. The agenda. So my lessons learned from this semester's class is always exude the type of leader you want to be from day one as an associate to years as a specialist. That way, when the time comes to step into a managerial role, you already have the behaviors of a leader and your peers respect as one as well. So I think that's really important as far as my lessons learned and my takeaway from this class. A lot of the readings and tips and tricks that I learned from this class, I've seen a lot of my managers actually try to execute in my profession. And sometimes it falls flat because I think they get lost in their own idea of what kind of manager they want to be. A lot of my managers never wanted to be supervisors or in a managerial role. So when they found themselves there, they had friends and colleagues within their departments that they were working in. And that's a hard line to then place after X amount of years of being their colleague. So from day one that you go into a position to when you actually get that managerial role, you always want to hold yourself to a certain standard so that when that time comes, it is not a shocker to you nor anyone else that you got that promotion, and the adjustments will not be as rigorous. And lastly, here's my references. I hope you guys enjoyed. Happy Halloween, and good luck with all of your career adventures. Thank you so much.
vampire's feet. The ghouls all came from their humble abode